Great stuff. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the meeting. It's 7:30 UK and Ireland time. If we could please open with the Serenity Prayer. God,
grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I will not mind be done.
stuff. Welcome to the Monday night Zoom meeting of Overeaters Anonymous. This is a closed meeting. My name is Rebecca A, and I am a compulsive overeater. If this is your first time at the meeting or you are visiting, please introduce yourself by first name so we can get to know you better. So do we have any newcomers here? And if you don't want to speak because we're recording, you can just put your name in the chat and we'll say hello to you. Hi, Megan, welcome. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh my gosh. So cute. Hi, Anne. Welcome, Anne. Keeping it in the family, loving it. Hi, Bethan. Welcome to the meeting. Hiya, Jane. Welcome. Great to have you here today. And feel free to jump in if you like. Hi, Mary. Welcome, Mary Ann. Awesome to have you. Elle, you're typing, but welcome. Welcome. Hi, Hege. Welcome to the meeting. Oh, hey, Paulsy. Yeah, welcome.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Yeah, welcome everybody to the meeting. Welcome everybody who comes to the meeting regularly. And yeah, we've got a speaker share today. We're recording this meeting because we've got a speaker share. So please keep muted when you're not speaking or sharing. Okay. Yes. If you have any questions or concerns during the meeting, please contact either myself or any of the just contact me by private message in the chat function. We ask if you can please make sure you keep your microphone on mute at all times during today's meeting, and also turn off your video if you are exercising, eating, or if you are moving around a lot. So I'm going to read the OA preamble, followed by different readings from the big book. So, OA preamble. Overeaters Anonymous is a fellowship of individuals who, through shared experience, strength, and hope, are recovering from compulsive overeating. We welcome everyone who wants to stop eating compulsively. There are no dues or fees for members. We are self-supporting through our own contributions, neither soliciting nor accepting outside donations. OA is not affiliated with any public or private organization, political movement, ideology, or religious doctrine. We take no position on outside issues. Our primary purpose is to abstain from compulsive eating and compulsive food behaviors and to carry the message of recovery through the 12 steps of OA to those who still suffer. May I please ask Leah to read how it works for us?
Hi, I'm Leah, Grateful Recovery Compulsive Overeater. How it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon.
Lovely. Thanks, Leah. Okay, next, could we please have Laura to read the 12 steps?
Yes, hi everyone, Laura, compulsive overeater. Here are the steps we took as suggested in a program of recovery. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our food, that our lives had become unmanageable. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Number 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Number 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Number 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all of these defects of character. Number 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. Number 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Number 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Number 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Number 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. Number 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to compulsive overeaters and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order! I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were food addicts and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our addiction. And C, that God could and would if he were sought. Do I read on?
No, that's perfect. Thanks, Laura.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a million. Okay, and next, may we have Geraldine, please, to read more about compulsive overeating.
Thanks, Rebecca. Hi, everyone. I'm Geraldine, a grateful, recovered compulsive overeater. More about compulsive overeating. Most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real compulsive overeaters. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our eating careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could eat like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his eating is the great obsession of every abnormal eater. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were compulsive overeaters. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people, or presently maybe, has to be smashed. We compulsive overeaters are men and women who have lost the ability to control our eating. We know that no real compulsive overeater ever recovers control. All of us felt at times that we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. We are convinced to a man that compulsive overeaters of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better. We are like men who have lost their legs. They never grow new ones. Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make compulsive overeaters of our kind like other men. We have tried every imaginable remedy. In some instances, there has been brief recovery, followed always by a still worse relapse. Physicians who are familiar with compulsive overeating agree there is no such thing as making a normal eater out of a compulsive overeater. Science may one day accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet. Sorry, I don't know where that buzzing is coming from.
Oh, thanks for your service, Geraldine. Great stuff. And next, may we please have Jim to read the tradition of the month for us, please.
Gladly. Hi, everyone. Jim here, compulsive overeater. Tradition 9. OA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve.
Thanks, Jim. Awesome. And finally, may we have Monica to read A Vision for You for us.
Hi, everybody. I'm Monica, compulsive eater. A Vision for You. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order, but obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks, Mon.
Thank you. Great stuff. Okay, so this week we have a speaker with us. I'm so pleased to invite my dear brother and fellowship and friend, Paul G, to share for us. Please take it away.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Paul G, recovered compulsive overeater, not cured. And just to start off with, I love page 164 when they say we know little, and I think for me, I know less than little. And I came back to OA in September 2020. I had been here, I'm 65, I had been here in my 40s, and I can attest to the progressive nature of the disease. My highest weight was 275 pounds. My lowest weight was 175 pounds. When I came in, I was at 245 pounds, and I'm now at 195 pounds. I currently have abstinence of 224 days, which is a tad more than 7 months. And I'm going to load some pictures. This is an 8th grade picture, and I know we all have different pathologies of our disease. And my first awareness of my disease was thinking back that I would sit in my living room at home in grade school and watch TV and eat crackers and juice. And are mentioning foods okay in this meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. Nuts and ice cream and popsicles. And the strange thing about it today for me is that I had no awareness of anyone else being in the house. I couldn't tell you if my mother was there. I know my dad wasn't there because I was afraid of my dad. Not that he hit me, but just his mood. I can't tell you, was my younger brother there or was my older sister there, my oldest brother? I just don't know. My mother suffered from postpartum depression when I was born and when my brother was born, and probably some bipolar throughout her life. So I know that was a contributor, but I'm a compulsive overeater. And the why really doesn't matter. What I'm aware of is there is a solution, and that's the solution that I live with. in this picture, in 8th grade, I wore husky clothes, and my weight started to balloon in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I think. I know that I used to know where all the food in the house was, the cupboards and everything else. And I would always try and take food out of the cupboard so that it didn't look like I had taken any. And I continued that throughout my adult life. And I used to steal food from people's desks and refrigerators at work. I would try and hide that I ate something, put the wrapper back the same way, only eat a certain amount if I could. Of course, with ice cream and things, I would end up eating all of it. And when I walked to high school, I used to stop at a store to get candy on the way, stop in the store to get candy on the way home, get mints and candy and sugar when I was there. My first diet was in high school. And as a teenager, I got a job in a liquor store, and it was just a gateway to many things. Certainly alcohol was readily accessible as a 16-year-old. I started my first diet, and this picture, I'm on the far right, and I probably had been dieting. I was active, going to the beach, body surfing, and my weight seemed to be okay. I got my value from being compliant, one, and being a good worker. That's how I got my value, and that really did go throughout my life. And I was always hiding my dishonesty and my fear that you would find out that I wasn't enough, and that I just didn't measure up. And so I could bolster my ego by being competitive and doing work. I met my wife at 16. She's the only woman I dated and had sex with. We were married at 20. My first child at 22. I had 3 children, and I'm grateful that my daughter is here with me in this meeting today. I graduated from college, university at 23. I became a CPA, and I'd arrived, right? You got it made now. You got a job. Everything's going to be great. Well, the dieting continued. I tried every diet. I mean, the diet that I think really clued me in that I had a problem. I went on a medically supervised fast that was 90 days. And within that 90 days, I had shakes, maybe one peanut and half of a wheat thin. And once again, I lost the weight. My body fat was amazing. I thought I'd arrived. I finally solved the problem. Nope. I went through, I did many diets. I did all sorts of self-help stuff throughout my adult life. I was always trying to fix who I am. If I find the right course, if I find the right book, if I find the right seminar. It was so frustrating that self-help books didn't work. I mean, as soon as I put them down, they stopped working. I couldn't understand that. I continued to diet until I came to OA in my 40s. I got a lot out of it, but as I recall, I don't think I ever really went beyond step 8 and 9. I think that scared me to death. And that was something that you could sponsor then. And so I was sponsoring. You could sponsor people up to the level that you were. So I did end up leaving OA, and on my journey, both in OA and after, I dealt with clinical depression. I voluntarily admitted myself to a mental hospital for about 10 days due to suicidal thoughts. I can look back and say that, to a large extent, I really contributed to my divorce by who I was being as a compulsive eater. I went through bankruptcy, and my profession was as a CPA, which again was another just an amazing level of shame. And one of the biggest things that I was ashamed of is that I was fired by my partners in a professional CPA firm. I had to go out on my own and try and do things. And ultimately I got luckily I got a great job. I've always been a people pleaser. I get my value from your behavior and what you think of me. I've always thought that I wasn't enough. I always felt separate and apart from you, and certainly separate and apart from God. I didn't understand why everyone could have a relationship with God and I couldn't. I just didn't get it. You know, I tried, I did my best. I gave religion, you know, the college try. I gave program the college try. I did individual counseling, group counseling, expressive arts counseling. I sang to kind of come out of myself and did a number of performances. This was a Halloween picture. It's kind of easy to find those, but basically I'm not enough. You're not going to be enough for me. I'm never going to get enough food, time, attention, sex. If you knew what I knew about me, you just wouldn't accept me. I was weak, a weak-willed, poor excuse for a man and a father. I was a failure. And I proved that throughout my life, is what I thought, that I earned that vivid mental image of myself that I'll probably say a little bit more about. I didn't correlate my disease with the unmanageability and reactivity in my life. I didn't get that the buildup of emotions drives me into the food, and the physical allergy keeps me in the food, until I started doing work in the big book, in the doctor's opinion. My life was shot through with hundreds of types of fear. I stopped myself all the time. As a kid, I would never let myself rise to the top. You know, I had to be 3, 4. I didn't want to be at the bottom, but I would always, you know, hold myself up from there. Another picture, you know, Halloween as Elvis. That was great. You know, it was Elvis in his fat years. This is a performance as an adult. I sang Stray Cat Strut, and that's why I've got the tail there. And this is a picture with my wife. We're in Hawaii. You can see my protruding belly was prominent. This is 2017, an engagement photo. This was, as I went through the years, fast forward to 2019, I discovered intermittent fasting. And I went from probably 245 again, down to below 200 pounds for probably about 15 minutes. And this was right around that time. So again, then if I go from the end of 2019 to February 2020, that's where my world changed. My 41-year-old son, who has 3 children, died of complications of type 1 diabetes. I was mired in grief. I retired April 1st of 2020. And as we all know, we were mired in COVID. I gained about 50 pounds in 5 months. I went to a grief counselor, and the grief counselor knew me from before. And she said, Paul, you need to go back to OA. My initial response was no, hell no. And she told me you should do 90 meetings in 90 days, which I'm sure was a good suggestion. So I did come to OA, and I did do 90 meetings in 90 days. I got a sponsor. I started working the steps with the OA workbook, but I just stopped. I just quit writing. I quit doing it. And I knew if I was going to be able to maintain the abstinence I had, that I needed to get this spiritual solution. I was pissed at God. I was so angry at God. I didn't understand him. I didn't understand why I had to lose my son and why his 3 kids don't have a father anymore. I didn't understand why his sister and brother would have to experience what they experienced today. And but yet I was desperate for a connection with God. I knew that, you know, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. God, you're my only hope to get me out of this grief, to get me into a life where I could rely on something other than myself, because relying on myself was not working. You know, I was powerless. My life was unmanageable. And unless I work these steps, the same will always be true. So, you know, during the meetings, my mood improved. I mean, within 30 to 45 or 60 days, I wasn't deep in my grief. I was starting to see a shift in my mood. I was looking forward to being in meetings every day, to be with all of you, to be in this world of Zoom, which was so foreign to me. I did get a sponsor right away when I came back. And he was kind of, well, you know what? You guys don't listen and do anything I ask, so I'm not going to tell you what to do. And, you know, that sounds good to me. I don't have to worry about it. You know, I'll do what I want. Well, right before Christmas, I knew what I needed to do. I called someone that's in this meeting today. I call her my, my younger, more beautiful godmother. And she referred me to my big book sponsor. We worked the steps, and within about 30 days, I was sponsoring. Within a week after sponsoring, this ambiguity that I have, this thing that I was holding back from God was in the area of sugar, which I said was my alcoholic food, that it's like, oh, it's okay if they put it in the food at a restaurant, right? It's okay if it's in my salad dressing. I ordered something, cowboy beans at a barbecue restaurant, and I had one bite and I knew there was sugar in there, and I just ate it all. I came back, my head exploded with the sugar. I called my sponsor. He said, you're in relapse, you need to start over again. I had to drop the one sponsee I had. I was humiliated, I was ashamed, and I worked the steps again. And I'm so grateful that I worked the steps that second time, because I really got that step 2 is came to believe that a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity. And I also saw that I had been afraid of doing step 10. So, you know, I worked the steps, and what I got from that is I got that personal relationship with God that I had wanted my entire life. And all I had to do was work the steps. There wasn't emotion here when I wrote this, gosh darn it. So God was able to use the single most traumatic experience in my life to guide me to OA, where I worked the steps, and I got that personal relationship that I've always wanted my entire life. I now have a design for living in steps 10, 11, and giving it away in 12. And such that, you know, my spiritual experience keeps expanding as I work with sponsees and as I continue to do this work in the program. And, you know, today, when I experience the grips of my emotions, my grief, my fears, I have a design for living in steps 10 and 11 that relieve the body tension I have that used to drive me into the food. And it's really critical that I understand that my disease is twofold, that, you know, I'm mentally different, that I have a mental obsession, and that mental obsession will keep on building. I have a buildup of emotions which will drive me into the food. Once I'm in the food, I'm eating sugar, I'm eating flour, I'm eating fat, you know, combined with those things, I'm done. It's just, I'm off and running, and I don't know how long it'll be. I may not have another diet in me, right? I don't think I do. I may not have another recovery in me. So I'm willing to do this work, this living in steps 10, 11, and 12. And I get it that this disease is permanent, progressive, and fatal, because from my 40s till now, I didn't have type 2 diabetes. I didn't have hypertension. I didn't have neuropathy. I didn't have none of those things in 40. It was all about my weight in my 40s. Today, that's a different story. So one of the other big things that I got was when I did my step 5, I've always known that I thought I was enough, but I thought I had all the facts and circumstances to back that up, right? As far as I was concerned, that was true. I wasn't enough. And that's what I was always trying to fix my entire life. Fix it with a seminar, fix it with a book, fix it by this guru, fix it by this seminar. And it never worked, or it didn't work for long. I have a great tool chest of things now. I share it with anyone that I can. They're all wonderful, but they didn't give me that connection with God, and they didn't give me something to replace the solution that I had, which was food. Food was the solution to all my problems. And today, my higher power, God, can do for me slowly what food did for me, for 9 seconds instantly. And then I chased it after that. So the vivid mental picture, the fantasy that I made up that I was, and I believe this is true for many of us here, that I thought that it was true that I wasn't enough. What I see today is that that's the picture that I created about myself, given that I did fail as a man, that I did make mistakes as a father, as a husband, as an employer. I did hide from my dishonesty, and I didn't want you to know I was dishonest, because then you wouldn't like me, and then you would reject me, and then you would abandon me. And I just couldn't be with that. And what I see today is that my survival instincts drive me into the food. That God gave me those survival instincts to survive. He didn't give them to me to thrive. He gave me free will. And that free will is what keeps me here and working the steps. That's a choice I can make. I didn't choose the disease. I didn't cause it. I can't cure it. I can't control it. I'm not responsible for that disease, but I'm 100% responsible for my for my recovery. And the other thing that was really meaningful to me in my in this spiritual journey was I heard a speaker say, test your higher power, test God, see if you can find him lacking. And I did. And, God was able to use other examples of things I had a problem with, other compulsions in my life. And he just took them away while I was working the steps for compulsive overeating. All of those things I can only maintain by doing this work, by continuing to expand my conscious contact. And I don't know, how much time do I have, Rebecca?
I'd say maybe you can enter your
Wrap it up.
Segment-ish. Thank you so much.
No, that's sweet. So just a few quotes. Lack of power, that was our dilemma. We had to find a power by which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves. If we're planning to stop drinking, there must be no reservation of any kind, nor any lurking notion. That was me, lurking notion that someday we'll be immune to alcohol or sugar. And the big book shows us precisely how men and women have recovered from this book. And what I really saw in the big book was that I found out that my real purpose in life is to fit myself to be of maximum service to God and the people around me. And that's really something I can get down with. That's really something I can commit to. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for your commitment to your recovery and working the steps. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Paul, for your share. Thank you for being with us today and sharing your story. Yeah, so beautiful. I'm so grateful. Thank you. Okay, we've entered into sharing time, and we welcome questions, and Paul is happy to answer as well. So feel free to get your hands up. I can see that Jim has his hand up. Go ahead, Jim.
Thanks, Rebecca, and thank you for your service and for everybody else who served. And Paul, wow, anyone who knows me knows I'm not usually first out of the gate like I am tonight. But I've been in OA close to 4 years, and I can say I've been to hundreds of meetings, hundreds. And I can say, while God is present we say at all of them, I can tell you that for me personally, there's a handful of meetings. On one hand, I can count where God has personally touched me, and the night of and your share personally touched me tonight. So thank you for that. Some of the things you said, I just resounded so much with. I was always a fat kid. And I remember I grew up in the late 60s or early 70s, and I remember the boy sizes were husky. They were specifically called husky, the sizes, and it was so mortifying because it was definitely like they didn't integrate them like they do now. It was definitely like fat people over there, the stealing food, yeah, no worries. And the thing that you mentioned, the fast, I also did that. After my son was born in 1993, I did a 3-month, or maybe it was even 6 months fast, where I think they were like the precursor to protein shakes, because these were envelopes of powder that you mixed with milk and you drank, and I was confined to 10 fat grams a day. So that's a small piece of chicken with no skin and no bone to it, while I was never suicidal ever, I was too chicken shit, if I were to be truthful. But more than anything, what happened to me just spiraled into hating myself, and to, just self-loathing every time I looked in the mirror, and when you mentioned you took up singing to kind of take you out, I remember I did like Toastmasters classes to try to be a little more outgoing and things like that, but finally, I just want to say, I can't begin to comprehend the enormity of that devastating loss that you felt, with your son. I can tell you, as a 5-year-old in 1969 who lost his daddy, and no one ever told me what happened. No one explained to me what happened. And I was kept out of everything, the funeral, the burial, the afters and everything. I was just pawned off on a neighbor down the road. I don't begrudge any, that's just the way it was. Then you kept kids out of everything, but it didn't affect me so much then. But as I became a teenager, it just denigrated into hatred of God, of myself. And, it took some help from somebody, but I don't have time for that now. But I just want to thank you so much for your share, and I'd love to be able to contact you at some stage.
That's right. I'll put my my deets in the box. So
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your share, Jim. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to jump in for a quick share. Hi, my name is Rebecca. I'm a compulsive overeater. Really grateful to be here, and so grateful to hear your share, Paul. Yeah, it's just so moving, and yeah, I echo the sentiments. I always feel in the presence of higher power, connecting with you, and yeah, your higher power, really just shines through. I'm so grateful. And I also wanted to say, really shiny, glossy hair in the first picture. It was beautiful. And my mum, I'm Nigerian, we're Nigerian, and I don't know whether she knew the word husky. She didn't speak English when she came to this country, but she would always say hug. It's the same kind of thing, being a kind of little chunk, and that's what I was as a kid. And yeah, I loved how you talked about being pissed at God, but also desperately in need of a higher power. It's, yeah, and when you were talking about, yeah, I felt like I really missed, I heard on a podcast the other day, really missed the hell out of God and a higher power. And my brain tried to look for it in more time, more success, more food, more money, more security. But I needed more power, more higher power. And I'm grateful that I get to, I found a way to access that power today. And yeah, I resonated with what you were saying about like getting your value from being a good worker. And for me, that's kind of like manipulating the situation. You know, I'm trying to get my value off of other people. Anyway, thank you so much for your share. And let's get back to the queue. Next, we have Margaret D for 3-minute shares or questions for Paul.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm Margaret, I'm a compulsive overeater. Rebecca, just to thank you for your service, but not just your service, the way you do service with such compassion and heart. It's just wonderful. Thank you. And thank you, Paul. Oh my God, I just felt so moved by your sharing, like other people have said. When you talked about the dishonesty, and when you talked about the dishonesty, the example you gave of stealing the food and then hiding things in the cupboard so that it wouldn't be seen. And that piece that goes together, the dishonesty, not just in stealing, but in not being able to own it, having to hide that I stole. Do you know, it was a double whammy in one sense. And that dishonesty in a way has gone through my life in my people pleasing, in that I will turn myself inside out to be what other people want me to be so that I can be loved and accepted. And of course, never feel the love or the acceptance. So it goes on and on and on, but I really can identify with that. And I've done everything. I've done diets, like as you described, I've done so many diets. I never learned anything from it. Never learned even that diets didn't work. Would diet, lose the weight, come back again. Diet, lose the weight, come back again. And once the diet was finished and I was down to a weight, you know, a substantial weight loss, I would start eating then normally. I now felt that I was fixed in some way, that I now could eat what I wanted now that I'd lost the weight. And of course, the weight would pile on again. And none of this made any sense, but it was acting out of some place of looking to be fixed from external, looking to be fixed by other people, by diets, but not. And I also did loads of counseling, like you, any kind of counseling. I had a guru, I did all kinds of things. All the time looking to be better than who I was, all the time thinking this would fix me. But coming into this program probably has made such a change for me, has opened me to something inside of me, but more importantly to my inner self and to God, as I understand God. And I've been trying, my mission has been over the last few months since I came into OA, my mission has been to try and find God in my daily life. Where is God showing up? And when I find it, and I did earlier this morning, it was just a lovely feeling. It's kind of like I'm being sent something to say, here I am, trust me. And I'm very happy with that, but very tentative yet. It still feels tentative. And that's me, it's coming from me, my lack of trust. But what I was curious about, Paul, was when you said you now have that connection. And I'm just curious about what that connection looks like to you now. What's the key part of that for you?
One of the ways that I see that connection show up is in working with sponsees, and one in the miracle happening in their life, and two, receiving inspiration and thoughts that can help them. The other is, I had an experience for a couple of weeks ago where I was in deep grief, which happens from time to time. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, I need to use a tool. I need to talk to someone, right? I need to talk to someone that's lost a son. I need to talk to someone in the program that understands grief. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great tool. But my next thought was, I need to go to God with this, right? And one of the things that I experienced in the big book was the thought that the great reality is deep within every single one of us. And I take that to be our ability to connect with God is that consciousness is available to me within me. And I took that moment and I just looked to see if I could connect with that part of me inside. And the emotional reaction shifted. It came down on my head and I felt peace just in the center of my body. I have been able to duplicate that, you know, and whether it's a body trick, whether it's my higher self, whether it's God, I can tell you that I asked God for that help. There's times where God shows up in someone asking me, how, you know, what do I do? How can I help myself? And I can share with them what I think, and it's exactly what I need. You know, I've been in places where I was struggling and I would get a text that say, what do I do? I don't know what to do. I'm going to binge, or, I'm whatever. And I'll say, this is what you do. And then I get it, you know. So one, I'm helping someone, I'm stepping out of myself. And two, I'm telling them the answer that I need to know. And you know, in this case, I got on a meeting and everything shifted, and, you know, and it passed. I have a step 11 in the morning. I do my 11-step review in the night, and I do my best to pause during the day to be open to my higher power. So I hope that's helpful.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Margaret, and thanks, Paul. Okay, next we have Mark D. Jump in.
How you doing? Thanks very much, Rebecca, for your service, and thanks so much, Paul. And you know, there's 10 million different things that I want to say about you know, what you said, and you know, I'm so sorry for the loss of your son, and I have no idea how you made it through that share, because you know, I could see just how troubling it was for you. But you know, there's a million things that I identified with, but you said something that I in all of the time and the number of times I've gone through the steps and in all the writing I've done, you said about that, you know, you never were aware of anyone else there when you were reading, when you were growing up as a child. And that had never dawned on me, that I had no idea that I was doing this. Everyone else could see all around me that, hey, look, he's in trouble. And, you know, it was just, you know, incredible. And I remember when I was 6 or 7, I was making my communion, and, you know, my mother brought me to get them clothes, you know, for the church service. And the guy then, you know, measured me, and I was being brought from the kids section over to the adult section. And the look on my mother's face, I never forget it. I'll never forget that as long as I live. But, you know, you're an absolute inspiration. Everything you say about the solution is there in the big book. You know, books and all of these self-help books, you know, they're full of rules and whatever else. The big book is full of suggestions. It's up to you if you want to just surrender to God and just, you know, do the suggested things. So I really got so much out of your chair this evening. So thank you so much, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, next we have, maybe Nancy P has dropped off. So we're going to go to Claire E. Hey, Claire.
Hey, Rebecca. Hi, everybody. My name is Claire E. I'm a recovered compulsive eater in Cornwall in the UK. Paul, thank you so much for that share. It was just really moving. And it's funny, isn't it? Because on paper, probably we would have, you know, we are fellows that probably usually would not mix. And you know, what bonds us, I guess, is our illness, but also our solution. And I just loved your share. It was so much identification, a lot of childhood stuff. And actually, funny enough, I was driving home from work yesterday, and I don't know why particularly it came up. I think it was a funny train of thought, actually, just driving past a McDonald's that was by the college, and I remember being in college, and I remembered, and just the amount of time and the amount of nice life experiences that my illness has cost me over the years. And it just gave me that real wave of sadness, because like you, I was a compulsive eater from the off. My childhood, I was very overweight at school, became very anorexic and then very bulimic in my teens. It cost me a lot of friendships. I was a loner. And I've, been in and around the fellowship since I was 18 years old, and abstinent now for nearly 4 years. So, there's the maths. There's a lot of in and out and struggling with it, and relapse, and leaving the fellowship and coming back to the fellowship, because like you, and I really identify with that thing of, I was pissed off at God. Didn't want it to be God. I didn't want that to be the solution. I couldn't get my head around it. I had nothing against God, but I just couldn't get it. And, as it says, our alternatives, and they're alternatives, not choices, really. If you don't do one, you'll do the other, is to go on to the better end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we can. And the other alternative is to have spiritual help, to accept, it says actually, to accept spiritual help. And, doing a step study at the moment, and he says, so it's like dialing 999 and then shutting the door to the ambulance. That's what I do. I'd ask everybody, and then I wouldn't take the help. I wouldn't do the stuff. And that's what keeps me here now. And I really heard your desperation in the light of your loss. It's like, oh my God, I need God. I'm angry at God, but I need God. And that's our dilemma. And that was my dilemma, is that on my own, my alternative is I'm left to my own devices, and look where that's got me. Years and years and years of battling this illness, and this it's a horrible illness. I wouldn't wish this illness on my worst enemy. The degradation and the humiliation, and it's cost me over the years. It's just horrible. But the thing that really binds us is the solution. And like yourself, thank God, just for one day at a time. I'm certainly recovered, not cured. I've been able to not eat those foods and start having some semblance of a change in attitude, a change of spiritual awakening, if you like. I still don't know. That's judgment. I loved your description then about also, that really accessing that intuition, that part of me, and whether it's God or whether it's just my best self, who cares? It works for me. Who cares? And I can only access that if I work the steps, if I use the tools, if I do the things that I know that I need to do. And and for me, it's like you were saying as well, that real heartfelt, it has to be heartfelt. It has to come from down here. If I tick box, it doesn't seem to work very well for me. But if I can really, put some quality in rather than quantity, and I really relate to that thing as well with sponsorship. It's often through, in my case, it's often through telling sponsees what they should do, and I kind of maybe take your own advice there. So it's a good one for me. I also related to the thing of never being good enough, getting my value through how much I can do in a day, how hard I can work, all of that sort of stuff. So that was just lovely. And I can't think of any intelligent questions. I was going to ask you something very similar to the previous question being answered. I'd love to hear you speak more, but I can't think of anything. I can't fathom it up. So I'll just relate and say thank you so much. Really enjoyed your share. And, to anyone who's new or relapsing and coming back after a relapse, I've been there. And this program does work. If it's a cliche, isn't it? It works if you work it. But I've got a little thing down. I do my step work mostly in a little summer house, a little shed in my garden, and I've got this little thing saying that heartfelt prayers are always answered. And that's been my experience. It's been my experience is that every time it's come from down here in a desperate plea, I have been answered, whether I like to think so or not. It has answered. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much.
Just to mention that I'm a frequent user of WhatsApp, so feel free to reach out using WhatsApp.
Oh, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Claire. I think if everybody is happy to kind of stay on, maybe we could take the hands we've got up before we close. So we've got Nancy, Tina, Scotty, and Laura. Yeah, okay. Nancy, jump in.
Hi, Nancy P. from the Boston area in the United States. Thank you so much, Paul. Awesome, awesome share. I was sort of, I don't have a question, but I can tell you that I can so identify with your pain over your son. Not that I lost a child, but my daughter was engaging in self-harm, and I couldn't eat fast enough to outrun those feelings. And trust me, I tried. And mostly I don't worry about that anymore. about her doing that, because for whatever reason we were in a therapy program, family program. It was just a lot of therapy, and her brain chemistry changed as she got older. And but if you take out cutting and self-harm and you put in food and compulsive overeater, there she is. And it was just so painful to watch that and to be helpless. And I was just trapped and howling with fear and pain and rage, the same as you. And I thought I was never going to get better. Never. It was never going to get better. And, I have been in Overeaters Anonymous for decades, and it wasn't doing me any good. And, but when I was desperate, I was at a public health sort of trade show in the Boston area. They have a lot of hospitals and they have the universities there. And, so everybody had a table, and Overeaters Anonymous is actually invited to have a table. And I was at that table, and I was asking one of the women there, how did you get abstinent? Because that's when I thought that abstinence was the object of the game. And she said, service did it for me. And when I later learned that abstinence is insignificant in compared to what else I needed, I realized that pain was what was my entry fee. That was my token, And when I was in enough pain, I surrendered and did whatever the book said. And I got better. And I have to say, I got better fast. And, I just want to say that, I could just so identify, it's unimaginable I can't think of anything that would be more painful than what I went through, except what you went through. But on the other hand, I binged my brains out because I dinged my manicure. And so for me, I have to, it's true. I have, and, or pick your poison, whatever the excuse was, like some stupid detail in my life would force me, to the refrigerator or the cupboard or the grocery store or whatever, secret eating, hiding eating, all that. And I don't do that anymore. And, I came into it, surrendered and, recovered in 2017 in December to January, February, around that time. And I got better fast, and my daughter got much worse. And the summer of 2018, she had to go into the hospital, and she stayed there for the entire summer and into the next school year. And she called me every day, several times a day, please come get me. Please come get me. I hate it here. I'm fine. And, I'm her mother, and I had to leave her there. And I can tell you that this program saved me. I mean, I used to make phone calls and pray for voicemails. And that was the old Nancy. The new Nancy makes phone calls until she gets an appropriate number of contact. And, I would call someone and I would talk for 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it was. I'd hang up the phone, I'd burst into tears, and I'd dry my tears, and I'd make another phone call. And I lived through that summer, that awful, awful summer. And, I wish I could say, oh, la, 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 everything's fine. It is. I mean, basically, it is fine. My daughter's gone to college, unbelievably. She's living there. She seems to be, fine. But I am stubbornly unable to just completely believe that she's going to be okay. The only thing that I can say is that I feel the presence of whatever it is that's taking care of me most acutely when I'm working with other people. And so anybody, I just want to say it once, like if anybody needs any support or wants to call me for any reason at all, I understand fear and I understand pain. And with that, I'll pass. Thank you so much for your share.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thanks, Nancy. Next up, can we have Tina? Thank you so much, Tina Al.
Hi, Paul. You sound really familiar. I can't believe how much you brought back my childhood to me. I was so much into the food that I was not aware of what was going on around me. And there was drinking going on. There was alcoholism going on. There was pot smoking going on. there was abuse going on. And it's just amazing. I remember my mom, I started out as a young child. I went to TOPS meetings. Then I did the liquid fast. Then I went to diet doctors and got pills. And then later, as I grew up, I've been an FARA, or RFA, FAA, OA. And through all of this that I look back all the way to childhood, when I was the husky, because I had to buy boys huskies. I couldn't even buy girls. There was boy huskies I had to fit into. And I just know that I was looking for God. I know I was always talking to him at the whole time that all this was going on. So my search has been a spiritual one. I've done, the gurus and music and poetry and counseling and different religions. And then the self-help. Oh my gosh, books and books on self-help. Everything but the solution. So that's what I'm working towards now. I've had a higher power in my life in other areas, except for the area of food. And it's just so strange to me that there is such a divide or a disconnect when in other areas of my life, I can rely upon God, and I do. And then when it comes to OA, oh, well, maybe, maybe not, So, but I am starting to recover. I am starting to go to him. I am starting to understand. I'm one of the slow ones, but I'm finally coming around. And I'm so grateful. I am grateful for OA. This is the first time because this is like my third time in OA, I bet. And I am finally starting to use the sponsorship and the steps and the program and the tools and moving on through and listening, going to lots of meetings. I do many meetings. And I have a great big book sponsor. And I'm so happy that I am working the big book. It has my answers in it that I need to live and survive and to thrive. So with that, anyways, thanks for your service, Paul. Thank you for everything. We'll see you in the rooms.
Thank you, Tina.
Oh, thanks, Tina. Great to have you with us and welcome back home. Okay, could we have Scotty followed by Laura? Scotty from Wicklow.
Yeah, thanks a million, Rebecca. My name is Scotty. I'm a grateful compulsive overeater. Thanks for your service and your beautiful smile. Thanks everyone for being here. And Paul, absolutely beautiful. Just what the doctor ordered. It was fantastic listening to you. And I like chairs that don't tell people what to do. They just share their experience, strength, and hope. I think there's so much more connection with the person. Yeah, and it was just powerful listening about, not powerful, but it was just amazing the way you were talking about your son and your higher power. Yeah, that is the test. I don't care what anyone says. That is the test. There's one thing, believe in God, and there's another thing, trust him. I like to think that when I'm faced with them tests, that I would stand firm to my higher power, because I give God all the power and all the glory. It starts with him and it finishes with him. I came from Alcoholics Anonymous, so I had no bother getting to God. And I have such a beautiful relationship with Jesus, if I'm being honest. I don't believe in the Catholic Church or nothing. I have a loving relationship with Jesus, and I talk to him the way I'm talking to you now, Paul. And I'm the apple of his eye, and he is my godly father, and I love him and I trust him completely. And I was saying all that, if my little 1-year-old was to die today, would I still be saying that? By listening to people like you, it shows me that, and I remember being at a meeting not so long ago, about a couple of years ago in AA before the pandemic, and there was an older gentleman sitting there, and he said he was there in a suit, and he was sharing, and he talked about that his son committing suicide and then his wife dropping dead within a week. He was there at a meeting, and he goes, no matter what happens, I need to suit up and get my arse on a chair, you know. And I was like, wow. And I remember when I was newly sober, I was at a meeting and there was a man there just back from Thailand, and he was sharing about he had to go over to the courts. His son was murdered in Thailand, and he had to go, and he was in the same court as the man who stabbed his son, and he was talking about having compassion and having love for him. And I was like, this is crazy, you know. But the longer I'm around, the longer I know that I need to trust God with everything, not just my weight, not just my food plan, but with my job, with my relationships, you know. I need God every aspect of my life. And I can still be fearful, you know, because I'm just wired differently. I can still be here and work at a meeting and everything is going well, and I can get this thought that my partner's going to come in and say that our son has died just out of the blue, you know. But I realize today that thoughts aren't facts, you know, and 99% of the stuff that goes on in my head is bullshit, you know. So I can never trust my first thought or my second thought, you know, and God has me exactly where I'm supposed to be. Yeah, I'm coming up to a year abstinent, you know, and I have so much freedom because of this program. And I shared last week, and I have to share it again tonight. I have to come to Alcoholics Anonymous for my drinking day when I'm talking about alcohol. I come to OA when I'm talking about my food, and I go to NA when I'm talking about my pills. I need to treat them, and the three of them work together. And above that is my higher power. Because if I take my foot off the gas on one, my disease will start saying to me, well, you haven't ate in over a year. The food wasn't as bad as the drink and the painkillers, you know. So it's about a balance for me. But I am a 24-karat gold addict. And today I'm so grateful that I have a solution, which is God and you people. So I'll leave it at that. And what a beautiful meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Scotty.
Scotty, you here. Great to have you with us. And to close us out, Laura S., go for it.
Thanks very much, Rebecca. Thank you for your service, and thanks everybody for the amazing shares. And thank you so much, Paul. You've really inspired me tonight. I remember I've spoken to you a few times on outreach, and I only realized that a couple of minutes after you were speaking. And I always remember, you know, I remember still the conversations we had, and we read from the big book together one night. And it's just so amazing. Sometimes I actually can't make the Monday night meetings a lot, so I'm just really glad I was able to make this meeting. And I think that it was really significant for me, and I'm so glad that I'm here, because your experience, I can relate to it so much. About 5 weeks ago, I suffered a miscarriage, and it was a much longed for, much wanted, much prayed for baby. I did a lot of treatment, and you know, I really desired to, you know, to have this baby so much, and I prayed so much to my higher power to be able to keep this baby. And I was told on the 7-week scan that the baby was measuring behind, but I really trusted my higher power, and I just believed that everything would be okay. And then I went in for the 9-week scan, and then I was told no, that there was no heartbeat, and my whole life came crashing down, and I really wanted to die. And it's just what you were saying about finding that connection with your higher power in the midst of such grief. And your grief was so severe, because I know you had your son for so many years, and you knew him, and you had him for all those years. And it's just, what I'm feeling is so horrendously painful. And so I know something of what you're feeling. And it was a funny thing that happened to me as well, because it did, I can't really explain how or why, but it brought me closer to my higher power. I really prayed for my happiness, and I don't know how it was answered, but I've been able to deal with the loss, and I've been able to accept it. And I've continued doing service, and I continued with my abstinence and the whole way through the ordeal. And I had to go to hospital and have a D&C, and I still stuck to my abstinence the whole way. I remember they wanted me to eat toast and I refused, and they wanted me to eat cornflakes and I refused, and they wouldn't let me leave the hospital unless I ate something. So they eventually brought me plain porridge, and you know, I really, you know, I just managed to hold on to my faith, and to get a deeper connection with my higher power. For some reason, it's hard to explain, really. It was like as if hope just wasn't, all my hope was gone and diminished, but then it came back. You know, I just felt that connection to my higher power. And you know, today was actually quite a bad day. I've been feeling really down, and now here I am listening to such amazing shares, you know, about having faith in our higher power, that we need them here. You know, we need them in every aspect of our life, which is so true. And so thank you so much again. And I leave it at that. I pass. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Laura. And if it's okay with you, if you would like to send me, if you had a name for your child, I'll ask my son Patrick to look out for your child. In the last week to 10 days, I've asked him to look for 2 other little children that didn't make it to this earth.
Yes, I will do that. Thank you so much, Paul.
That's beautiful, Laura. Thank you so much, and sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Okay. So sharing time has come to an end. I'd like to remind everybody of the 7th tradition. I've posted the link in the chat, and I will repost that. We're self-supporting, declining outside contributions. The money pays for rent and literature, and excess funds go to our intergroup. Tradition 12 states that anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all these traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. Therefore, who you see here, what you hear here, when you leave here, please let it stay here. Thank you so much, everybody, for your beautiful shares. Thank you so much, Paul, for your wonderful share. And thanks, everybody, for being here. Just incredible. So yeah, would Michael please close us out with the promises, and then we will pray after that.
Hi all, I'm Michael, another Wicklow man and a compulsive overeater. And thank you, Rebecca, for your leadership, but particularly Paul, thank you very much. It truly brought out in all of us a tremendous sense of feeling and knowing this is the greatest place to be. Anyway, the promises. If you are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly and sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so we will close the meeting by with the Serenity Prayer, using the word God as we understand, and we can link digital hands.
God.
God,
God,
grant me the
grant me
serenity,
serenity to accept the
Accept
things
the
I cannot
things I
change,
cannot change.
courage
Courage to change the things I can,
and the
and the wisdom to know
wisdom
the
to
difference.
know the difference.
Keep coming
Keep
back.
coming back. It works if you work it,
If you
it
And it
work
won't.
won't if you
work
don't.
it, you don't.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you very much for a
Thanks
great,
all.
Thank you.
Good night.
great session. Thank you.
Bye, Jim,
Thank you all.
Rebecca.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'll keep you in my prayers, Paul. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Paul, it's safe to say you knocked it out of the ballpark.
Very true. Very, very true. Thank you again, Paul.
So God, you know, in my world, it's God's meeting. It was God's
Yeah.
share, and anything that came out of this, there's no doubt in my mind that it was a gift from God. So,
Gosh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, so night everyone, and have a
Bye,
nice.
Rebecca.
Bye now.